and the ancestors are looking out for us. God Hayes is exposing them, man.
Okay, you see that chair right there? See how big it is?
Yeah.
Now look at the Pope chair under it. Scroll down, look at the Pope chair under it.
Never have it been made so clear.
Young TV. Young.
We running the game right now.
Young TV.
Time to take over.
Young
We the hottest in the game. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you just not tuned in.
TV.
Share, like on your Instagram, Facebook.
Young TV.
If you tuned in, we broadcasting live from 2030, baby.
Young TV. Young
Taking over the game, baby. Oh yeah.
Young TV.
Hit that like.
Young TV.
Get them likes up in the air, you heard me?
Young TV.
Ride by. Hotel Islam.
Young TV.
Assalamu alaikum. Flown lesson. Peace.
Young
Be unto you.
TV.
Hit that like.
Man, we're about to crack heads and twist caps. Now they saying they still try to call us black, Negroes and coloreds. They make this month Black History Month, which is a scam within itself. But notice the agent is notice the principle. Man, the chief's on the land. We cracking heads. Hey man, get your hard hat on. I got chief in the building. We about to get ready to clear up some things on this Harriet Tubman, and that not just Harriet Tubman, a whole bunch of other stuff. We're gonna start with Harriet Tubman though. But Chief, you want to say something to the people while we up in here?
No, man, let's just take off. Let's go. Let's just get to the.
All right, so hey, look, man, you could just roll that beautiful beam footage. Hey, y'all, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. We're about to get ready to do this.
Is not the only one that needs to be exposed. We need to talk about Harriet Tubman and the vital role that she played, because I don't think y'all realize that gap that we're missing. Harriet Tubman helped cover that up. Let me break this shit down to y'all. So first of all, if y'all don't know, Harriet Tubman was not her name. And y'all, I keep telling y'all, America is a stage. These people are playing characters. Everybody, for some odd reason, has to change their name. So, and if you don't know, her real name was Araminta Ross. And I believe that's a Hebrew name. So she had to be kidnapped and brainwashed. But anyways, it says that during the Civil War, she served the U.S. Army as a spy, a scout, and a cook. The key word is she served the U.S. Army as a spy, a scout, a nurse, and a cook. And ironically, she's supposed to have led multiple slaves to freedom. But she worked for the U.S. How does that make sense? If we are the Aboriginal people of this land and she worked for the U.S., she was not working for us, because we were not united. We weren't citizens. Do you remember the United States were the 13 colonies that were over there that was trying to infiltrate into our land? We were not a part of their government. They called us La Louisiana, the Louisiana Purchase. Y'all come on now. And she worked with David Hunter, who was a general for the Union. And you know, the Union was supposed to be black people. Why would black people have a white man as a general when we just went through and escaped from slavery? That does not make sense. It doesn't make sense, right? And so it sounds like she might have led him to us. And the people who she was rescuing, which more than likely were black men, she was trapping into their system. The Union was a trap for black people. She led the Union to black armies using the same tunnel systems that they use to today. Look. These are the same tunnel systems that they're using to traffic the kids. These are the same tunnel systems where people are coming up missing. Ironically, these are the same tunnel systems that she used to free us. Y'all, that's a red fucking flag. That's a red flag. Let me tell you how they got to us. She used these tunnel systems, and they were able to pop up in the heart of our cities. That's what happened. It was used as the face, so that way we would think that they were on our side. But it's no different from the Democratic and the Republic. They're both on the same team, but pretending to be on separate teams. So that's the same thing with the Union and the Confederate. They were the same people, because that's the United States. We weren't a part of the United States. Understand that. And so any black people that were a part of the United States were kidnapped. They were kidnapped. They were prisoners of war, because the Civil War was being fought between the Aboriginal people, or the original people, in the United States. I remember I said that she was used and she was trapping black people. Y'all remember when those pandemics of syphilis and things were being implemented into our men? How do you think that happened? She helped. She was a nurse. She telling y'all all of that. She kidnapped them, and she kidnapped them and put them into their system to where they were experimented on, and they were put into these prisons. And so when we go into these reconstruction eras to where they are reconstructing these buildings, they use black prisoners for that. Y'all. Okay, and then let me tell you something.
This would be Harriet Tubman was fake.
I'm just trying to understand, like, if Harriet Tubman was fake, then who is this person right here? All of this right here. Who? Read it. I'm gonna just leave that up there for you to check it out. I mean, did you even know that she was in the military? She was one of the first women in the military before the military allowed women in the military. Look at those dates. This is from 1822 to 1913. It says Tubman honed her talents as a spy, a scout, a nurse, and sometimes a guerrilla soldier. That's why she had a shotgun, because she was a trained military soldier. Now, I might agree with you. Maybe she did work with the people, because ain't no way she was in the military. But to say she fake, I mean, you can't have it both ways.
Which segues into the story of Harriet Tubman, which is one of the many objects that has been used in our history books as a slave ship in a sense for several years now, even though the origin of the story was truthfully meant to garner an influx of money and public attention from a certain group of people by being utilized as a symbol to make servants feel like leaders and to draw out human emotions that are attached to a said hero or heroine. That alone is just one of the many reasons why the story of Harriet Tubman has been recreated over and over again as a book and as a movie. But what if you never heard of this story in school before? How would you even know about slavery? Would you hear it from your parents or your grandparents? Can you even recall how many times they have mentioned Harriet Tubman to you? In the English language, the word Harriet is defined in 1828 as an estate ruler, and the word Tubman is defined as in the exchequer, a barrister so-called. An exchequer is a legal term that meant to institute a process against a person in a court of revenue, and a barrister is a counselor learned in the laws, qualified and admitted to plea at the bar relating to the entitlement of the crown. Then, the story of Harriet Tubman was created in 1869 according to an act of Congress in 1869 that was entered into the clerk's office of the District Court for the Northern District of New York by William G. Wise. The name of this story, written by Sarah H. Bradford, is Scenes in the Life of Harriet Tubman, published by W.J. Moses Printer in 1869, and then once again in 1961. Now, in the introduction of this book, located in page 1, it states a lot of essential information. Listen closely. The following little story was written by Miss Sarah H. Bradford of Geneva, with the single object of furnishing some help to the subject of the memoir. Harriet Tubman's services and sufferings during the rebellion, which are acknowledged in the letters of General Saxton and others, it was thought by many would justify the bestowment of a pension by the government. But difficulties in the way of procuring such relief suggested other methods, and finally the present one. The narrative was prepared on the eve of the author's departure for Europe, where she still remains. It makes no claim whatever to literary merit. Her hope was merely that the considerably numerous public, already in part acquainted with Harriet's story, would furnish purchasers enough to secure a little fund for the relief of this remarkable woman. Outside that circle, she did not suppose the memoir was likely to meet with much of any sale. In furtherance of the same,
if they lied to us about coming from Africa, if they lied to us about taking a trip to the moon, if they lied to us about forming electricity using a kite, what makes you think that these people did not lie when they told us the story about Harriet Tubman? One thing I did notice when I was in school, and I paid close attention to it because they taught it every year, you couldn't miss it. Taught about Harriet Tubman, Thurgood Marshall, Nat Turner, slavery, we came from Africa. Christopher Columbus discovered America. Like, why is it so important for you to inform me about where I come from, or who I am, or a part of who I am, and the world around me? Programming my subconscious mind to automatically think about these things. Before y'all even mention to say that Harriet Tubman, oh well, she served in the military. Says who though? Harriet represented nothing more but a metaphysical symbol, and I'm gonna break it down. I want y'all to say Harriet 3 times fast. What did you get? Now, Harriet has 7 letters. Number 7 is very symbolic. You have 7 days, you have 7 chakras. Now, Harriet was known as the Moses of her people and as the conductor of the Underground Railroad. If you look right here, it says the number 7 signifies the Greek deity Athena and the Roman deity Minerva. Both of them are goddesses of war and the city protectress. Athena represented wisdom, craft, and warfare. Let's go back to the fact that she was the conductor of the railroad. Our chakra system can represent the Underground Railroad. At the base of our spine is the sleeping serpent, or aka Kundalini. And when the Kundalini rises, it goes through the different passageways of each chakra, is channeling the energy to go in through the crown chakra, which represents enlightenment, which is the gateway to freedom. Now, if y'all go back and watch the movie Harriet, you'll see and hear her say certain phrases that represented energies and frequencies. There's actually one scene where she says, suppose there's a snake coiled at the bottom of your feet, representing Kundalini energy, channeling energy throughout your body. Also in the movie, she
Day 6 of exposing Black history, because like it literally didn't even happen. We've all heard the legend of Harriet Tubman in school, right? The Moses of the Underground Railroad. She led hundreds and hundreds of slaves to their freedom. She's on stamps. Schools are named after her. Confederate monuments are taken down and replaced with statues of her. She may even replace Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill. I mean, it's pretty cool, right? The problem is it's all just like literally made up. At age 13, around 1834 or so, Araminta Ross, which is her birth name, was shopping in a general store in Maryland. An enslaved teen tried to escape, and the overseer threw a 2-pound iron weight at this guy, but it missed and smashed into the skull of young Araminta, and she almost died and suffered very severe head trauma from this. So for the rest of her life, she was dealing with very severe headaches, seizures. She would just black out randomly. How is it that someone with chronic blackouts can lead nighttime raids or guide groups through swamps? I mean, historical records show that she struggled with basic tasks. Okay, but maybe she just is that good. Maybe she's her. So what's the problem with the claims themselves? I'm so glad you asked. There are virtually no primary sources sources from her time to corroborate any of this. That whole like extravagant bounty that slaveholders supposedly put on her head, no evidence of that. Her 19 rescue trips freeing 300 slaves, it's like totally made up. Even if you just Google it right now, they're like, it's probably like 16 tops. Okay, so where did the myth come from? Well, there were two key writers involved in this. The first was Sarah H. Bradford, whose books on Tubman are, according to Chesson, pseudo-biographical narratives, and they have no standing as sources of historical information because Bradford cobbled together a bunch of uncorroborated stories, exaggerating all this stuff for drama and for sales. And Bradford later admitted to literally just relying on whatever Tubman said without any verification. And frankly, we cannot be relying on people with lifelong severe brain damage. Then there's Earl Conrad. He was born Earl Cohen, actually. And this guy was a Marxist journalist for the black newspaper Chicago Defender. And in the 1940s, he wrote quote-unquote history books on Tubman with zero primary sources, motivated purely by his dislike of white people. So, as a radical, he just twisted Tubman's story into propaganda for civil rights, ignoring her disabilities to create this kind of like invincible icon, this kind of like superhero figure.
That's enough. I wanted to roll all them clips because that's all the Harriet Tubman clips where we can hear everything, that all the point of views and perspectives. So, and I got like a little list right here of everything that dude just said. AI or Google even verified that not all everything he just said about the head thing, about the number of people, like everything is don't add up. So, Rod, starting with this, because I got another tape they're gonna get into the slave narrative. We're gonna just deal with that. Why would they create a story about a woman? Because my grandma really never talked about it, but it really started like in the school when you go to school. They know the Rockefeller, the General Board Educational's thing. It seems like it's only a school thing. They want to drill her story into our head. Why would they make up a story about a lady that helped slaves? Right? What do you think on that?
Information warfare, propaganda warfare. Under propaganda warfare, if you don't know what propaganda warfare is, a lot of their strategies will get by you. Right? First of all, do you know what the Mason-Dixon line is? Yeah. Better. I think he froze up.
Yeah. It's storming outside, but I had to get off the Wi-Fi because it's storming. Go now. I'm cleared up now. What you say now?
You know what the Mason-Dixon line is?
Yeah, I heard Doc talking about it. It's like below, and it's like somewhere in Georgia, like a little bit above Georgia, or in Georgia.
The Mason-Dixon line. Now, notice the name of it first.
Yeah.
Right. Remember the song? Down in Dixie, the land of cotton. Right?
And
then, but it started off with the Mason.
Go ahead.
So the Masons, who was controlling the North, had to separate the land of the North from the South. They created the Mason and Dixon line. Now, everything below the Mason-Dixon line is classified as the colonial South or the antebellum South. Now, before 1801, we had the Louisiana Territory was separate, right? Then in 1863, you had the Emancipation Proclamation on January the 1st. Right? The Emancipation Proclamation was part of the strategy to end the Civil War. Okay. So this is January 1st, 1863. Play the Dane Calloway clip again. Listen for the dates. Remember,
the Dane Calloway clip.
Remember,
right
Emancipation Proclamation happened January 1st, 1863. This is important. It's important that you remember that when you listen to the dates about her that Dane is giving.
All right, roll it back.
Roll the coin.
Which segues into the story of Harriet Tubman, which is one of the many objects that has been used in our history books as a slave ship in a sense for several years now, even though the origin of the story was truthfully meant to garner an influx of money and public attention from a certain group of people by being utilized as a symbol to make servants feel like leaders and to draw out human emotions that are attached to a said hero or heroine. That alone is just one of the many reasons why the story of Harriet Tubman has been recreated over and over again as a book and as a movie. But what if you never heard of this story in school before? How would you even know about slavery? Would you hear it from your parents or your grandparents? Can you even recall how many times they have mentioned Harriet Tubman to you? In the English language, the word Harriet is defined in 1828 as an estate ruler, and the word Tubman is defined as in the exchequer, a barrister so-called. An exchequer is a legal term that meant to institute a process against a person in a court of revenue, and a barrister is a counselor learned in the laws, qualified and admitted to plea at the bar relating to the entitlement of the crown. Then, the story of Harriet Tubman was created in 1869, according to an act of Congress in 1869.
1869. Yep, and you right on point with that. It was January 1st, 1863.
Okay, now if the slaves, so-called slaves, were supposed to be freed on January the 1st, 1863, it's 6 years later before the Harriet Tubman story surfaced.
That's right. Damn.
Remember, I told you they write the story after the fact, and then they tell you this is what it was. Now, the next thing is, why would you take people from the South all the way to Canada under the pretense of freedom when all you had to do was go to the Louisiana Territory, Mexico?
Right.
Right there. That's right there. But we don't realize more people left the farms. They went west, southwest. Most of them didn't go north. Most of the ones went north was the mulattoes, the octoroons, and the quadroons who could effectively pass as being Caucasian. So they can assimilate into the overall society of Caucasian people and confuse the narrative. This is what your Oscars is about. This is why you got the symbol of tie for the Oscar. And Oscar was the first, he created the standard for the film industry. Now, Oscar being the representation of Ty. Ty was the one who made man on the potter's wheel in the story of the Egyptian, right? How do you know when to take the pot out of the oven, out of the crucible? Remember, America's called God's crucible. It's called the great melding pot. So if you fashioning and forming man into a new being, then you got to have a litmus test, right? So the litmus test is how well in effect can you pass for being paleface. You got to look like one of them, but you got to have the blood. Then you win the awards. So most of your big time Hollywood celebrities through the 40s, 50s, and 60s was passing. The Oscars was created to give them an award for effectively being able to pass, but they started categorizing it as in this section, in that section. Originally, we just had an Oscar for appearance. In the movie, they just gave you an Oscar. Okay, now, if you look at the quintessential definition of a Caucasian, they tell you they blonde hair, blue eyes, with pale skin, right?
Right.
Now, I don't know if you remember, but Baba wrote in the Sons of Canaan, I think it was. He said if they don't have blonde hair and blue eyes, they mixed.
They're not. Yeah, they're not real Caucasians. Yeah.
Right. Then he came out later with another book under the Holy Tabernacle Ministries, where he said that the only real pale face was what we call Scandinavians with the blonde hair, blue eye. Those are the only ones left from the original genetic stock. Why are we talking about genetic stock in relation to this situation? Right? Because they passing. Okay, so now the DNA in the great melting pot have enough mixed people that when they trace their DNA back, if you go back past 100 years and you've been over here in America, you got some cut on you.
Right.
You got your drop of blood. You classified as one of those ones that was rescued at sea that they call civilly mortis, aka black folks.
Right.
Right. Now, they don't want to be treated like us, the darker ones we can't hide our skin color. We can't hide behind other pale people and hope they don't see us. We're going to stick out like a sore thumb.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones that do, that can pass, Oscar worthy. What a performance. Right? You got to remember, they didn't have no rhythm. Where all these people with this rhythm come from that don't look like us?
Right.
How did they get the rhythm? The rhythm's tied to the essence of the soul. They couldn't sing. First, they had to teach them opera so they can learn how to carry a note on the vocal cord.
Right.
But opera wasn't going to do it. You had to teach them how to sing that deep down Delta blues. And then you're going to call it bluegrass and country music. But now you listen to these singers that singing, they don't sound like them singers back in the 50s and 60s. Right? They're not. There'll never be a love like mine. Right? So they was really talking, but they was harmonizing the talk. Now they can actually sing. One drop of blood. Unlock that right chamber of the spinal column to allow the sacral secretion to rise. So you don't end up like Stephen Hawking, where your body shut down because you don't have any activity in the right brain. All you got is linear logic of the left brain. So your body is going to reject that because you're on a feminine planet. When it rejects it, it's going to systematically shut your ass down. So anyway, when you look at the map of where the closer than Canada she could have went to Mexico.
Right.
Remember, Texas was Mexico at that time.
That's right. That's right, Rod.
So if Texas was Mexico, why are you taking people to Canada?
And to the Battle of Los Alamos. Yeah, go ahead.
So they telling us something. They want us to just accept what they telling us. But these people that look like us, that ain't us, is who we've been fighting. If you go back to that picture, you remember the picture of the more Zionist Jews?
Yeah, the dudes that had their hand on the Bible. One had
if you pull that picture up and put a picture of Harriet Tubman, them her people.
I can see that.
Them her people. But now they got to remember, it's about control. In propaganda warfare, it's about control of the narrative, the story that's being given. The only way to unravel if it's true or not is to apply the testing of logic, and it don't match up. How was she freeing slaves in 1889 when Lincoln already freed the slaves 6 years earlier?
Yeah. See, I heard they ran that. Go ahead, Rod.
That's the same as we know about Nat Turner from a book called The Confessions of Nat Turner.
Yeah.
The book is listed under fiction.
Yeah.
It's a novel. They tell you that on the cover of the book. It's just a novel. Right? But if we know our history, we can use that energy that they describing Nat Turner to be. And then we gonna have something called the Melanic Palace of the Rising Sun. And Nat Turner is their prophet. Right? He's just as legitimate as anybody in the Bible.
That's interesting.
It's exposing the foolishness of using a fictitious character in order to live your life by somebody's character that's made up.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what
that's happening now with the movies. That's happening now with the rap and the movies. Yeah.
Yeah. So the book that we know Nat Turner from is a novel. That's crazy. Because the story was, we know Uncle Tom from Uncle Tom's Cabin. We didn't used to call traders Uncle Toms. We used to call them Jayhawks. We didn't call them Uncle Toms. We knew who they was. We knew they was marrying into the family to get the land from under the tribes and get it under the church.
Hey, some people argue that Uncle Tom wasn't a sellout. That they play his story.
That's from that book Uncle Tom's Cabin. If you read the book Uncle Tom's Cabin, he gonna come off as a straight jigaboo in the first few chapters.
Yeah, I watched the book and watched the movie.
But when you get closer to the end, when they start being hard on him, now remember he the house nigga.
Yeah.
When they started treating him a certain kind of way, he went and rallied the field niggas to overthrow the master in the house. Spooked by the door. It's the same story.
Oh shit.
What's wrong, Al?
Oh, keep going. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, so it's the same as a spook by the door. Just another era telling the same story. But that's Uncle Tom's Cabin. But most of us wasn't readers. So we used to get so mad reading the book, we never finished it to know that Uncle Tom was the one that took what he learned in the big house and took the field niggas and turned on the master and overthrew the. But it's still a novel. It's still a fictional story. The Uncle Tom's Cabin is tied to Huckleberry Finn. This is literally a fictitious story. So they telling us these fictions because if they can get us to replace the fiction with the history, then they can control the narrative. But as soon as we be like, yeah, that's made up shit. You can have it. I mean, like you could teach in a history class because, as Dr. Clark would say, is just because the story is not true, don't mean it can't carry some truth in it. That's the hardest thing for us to get. That's why when we see movies like Black Panther or X-Men, we miss the underlying point because we don't believe that a fictional story can tell us something that's also true at the same time. Now, the stories that was legit that they don't like to talk about is Denmark Vesey and Gabriel Prosser, which was two different guys, and they was both betrayed by Negroes, mind you. And those were going to be two of the biggest so-called rebellions on record. They call them slave revolts. I don't call them slave revolts. I call them persistent rebellion against a belligerent occupation. Persistent rebellion against belligerent occupation. I think it was Denmark Vesey got arrested when he was planning to seize the armory where the guns was kept. And they caught him en route because some nigga told on him. You know, Gabriel Prosser was rounding church members up. You had a lot of us that was looking for ways to overthrow the colonizers. But when they kept the blood magic a secret, that's what kept us from being able to break free, because we didn't know about the reason they have to keep telling us Crispus Attucks was the first to die in the revolution is because we got to know who's first blood of the righteous. What chief did they sacrifice to put us in a slumber, a mental stupor, right? And so they used a miseducation system to teach you an alternative history than what your actual history is. But a lot of places they use true stories in order to tell false narratives, a well-dressed lie. It's the same way you can take a fictitious story and extract some truth from it. You can take a truth and tell it in a way that'll slant it away from what it really means.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's a form of misdirection. It comes from magicians and on stage. Misdirection. Make you look over to the left while I shift my hand over to the right and take something else. Right? So when you look at these stories that they're telling us, why would they tell us the Harriet Tubman story about somebody that was going against their system? And they support the narrative.
Right.
That in and of itself is enough to make me suspicious.
Yeah, it's conflict of interest. It's the conflict of interest.
Right. See, they want us to be patriotic about the occupying government. We not patriotic about that shit. They call this the land of the free and the home of the brave, but we can't be free as long as the corporation is running the braves. The braves is the soldiers of the tribes.
Right.
We be forgetting that that's what they used to refer to the young men as the braves.
Yeah, young braves. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a baseball team called the Braves.
Yeah, Atlanta.
Right. So they telling us stuff with the sport team mascots. And that's why they kept putting the original Cleveland Browns had the Indian head, the brown Indian. Like I told y'all before, the Browns clan was one of the largest clans. You get a phone book right now and go, phone book in the year 2026 is highly. But if you can find an old phone book and you look in there under the name Brown, it's going to be pages compared to most names. The name Williams, the name Washington, they're going to have multiple pages. Those are giant tribes. On my father's side, we related to Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Not related to any Williams on my mother's side. My mother's side is native Irish and French. Right? On the Irish side, we connected to the ones called Queen. Percy Quinn Park is named after my mama's uncle. His brother was my grandmother's father with a little dark-skinned Indian woman.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So all of these pieces and tidbits of history, we have to question the narrative, because if they trying to oppress us, they don't want us to have heroes unless they can give us the hero.
Right. And narrative.
And one of these high profile people was in the book of quotes. Right. And it was talking about COINTELPRO, and it said that instead of allowing them to pick a messiah of their own, we will make one for them. I think that's in the Protocols of Zion as I think about it. But they want to manufacture a messiah for you.
Martin Luther King.
But it's somebody they can control. No, Barack Obama. They created him from scratch.
Yeah, him too. But Martin Luther King figured out something, then he switched on. That's what made him put him on the business.
Yeah, because he had that historical meeting with Elijah Muhammad.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
We be saying stuff about people. And, I mean, our people love to attack each other because we know the enemy look like us. But we don't know the tribal traditions of the different tribes. All of the tribes didn't have the same customs and practices. And that's what they was trying to use to keep us divided. we had respect for each other. Look how the Amish is. That's how every tribe was. All over the land, we was living our own life. Some of us would go into what we call the main society or the pop culture society, as they call it today. But the majority of us was under our own vine and fig tree. By using the Trail of Tears and the Indian Removal Act, they forced tribes together with different customs and practices, which created in-house conflicts. They did that to destroy family structures.
That's right. I got you want me to roll that next one?
Cool.
On this next one, it's gonna break down on how we was over here already, and King George the First in 1718, 1715 started sending white convicts to America to set up the colonies. So they were sent over here as white servants, white slaves. They were Slavics. I got a couple clips. Hold on, let me roll this first one.
I bet you did not learn that between 1718 and 1775, Britain sent over 52,000 convicts to America. Before that, British criminals were either whipped, branded, or hanged. The British Transportation Act of 1718 changed all that. Convicts were now sentenced to 7 or 14 years of enslavement in America. Convicts and enslaved people were gathered together in a ship for the voyages. Enslaved people, they were enslaved for life, and their families from there on were also included in that. Convicts were only sold for 7 to 14 years. Quite often, convicts were bought by poor farmers. It is estimated that 25% of the British immigrants to colonial America during that period were actually convicts. Land of the free.
All right, so and to the add that the Moors, okay, the people that came over here as the slaves that they talking about really were convicts from Great Britain. What they did is switch the narrative on to us. They don't even teach you about the convicts coming from Great Britain from 15 all the way from 1715 all the way to 1773, to where then they started an uprise against these dirty Moors. That whole ordeal really had nothing to do with the native people over here. That was the British versus the white convicts that they brought over here. Now, another thing,
all of them went pale face though. That's the problem that people don't
all on one pale face. Let me say this last piece, then I'm gonna let you go, Rod. Another thing to add is the Atlantic, that Atlantic slave trade that they talking about. It was a group of Moors, Berber Moors from North Africa, and they were going and raiding European villages and white villages. These so-called white really wasn't really that popular then. I'm talking about pale people that was populating certain areas in Europe and other places on the coastline. These Berber Moors will raid them and kidnap them and then sell them as slaves. That's the real slave trade. Another part of that is before 1492, these pale mans really didn't have no. They really didn't control the water. It was all controlled by Moors. And so you can go read the story of Queen Isabella. They couldn't even get over here. Only person they really was selling east with Marco Polo first, and then Christopher Columbus is when they lay claim to selling on this side. But they were before then. The Berber Moors were like sharks looking for booty, selling around looking for booty, man. And if you wasn't no Berber Moor and a Muslim, they would get booty with anybody. They get booty with everybody. What I mean by that is they rob you of your shit because booty is really loot, on the waters to these pirates who were Moors. But so that they didn't take us from nowhere. They were selling pale mans, and they took them to Africa. That's why the pale man is in Africa. They took them to Australia. These Moors. And they took him to Australia. It's how Crocodile Dundee type get down in Australia. Crocodile Dundee is not an Aborigines Australia. The Australians Australia, they dark skin with gray hair. And they look kind of like they got certain features, certain strong features.
Malaysian print.
Yeah, go ahead, Roger. Want to add all that? What you got on that?
Look, those people, if you look up Tipper Tibb was the largest slave trader of his era.
Mm-hmm.
He looked just like any nappy faced nigga you see running around in the hood today.
Yeah.
Right. But Tipper was he didn't consider himself African, he considered himself Arab. Today, what's today's date? The 15th, February 15th, 2026 in the United States time continuum. Right now, today, there's somebody buying and selling slaves in an Arab country that's kidnapped from Africa. They doing it in Somalia, they doing it in Sudan, they doing it in Ethiopia, they doing it in Egypt. They kidnapping nomadic tribes, especially women, and they holding them for slaves, and they selling them on the open market. Today, there is an open slave market somewhere running right now in the Middle East, wherever the fuck that's at.
That's right.
These people been trading in human cargo for a long time. The thing that we don't have any misgivings about that. We know they trade in human cargo. But here go the kicker. Ask them who built those places in Ghana where the slaves supposed to export it from.
Yeah, right.
What year was those buildings built? Why are the cannons facing the ocean and not inland if they stealing people? Because the ones who's controlling that system will have to fight the people that's inland that they stealing people from their tribe, but they got all the cannons that's facing the ocean.
Right.
Doesn't make sense. So the only way that the cannons would be facing the ocean is if the threat was coming from the water. The threat wasn't coming from inland. They wasn't going inland stealing people. They was trying to stop people from coming on land. Right? So people be like, well, I felt it. They don't know that's an Anunnaki port. All of that vexing grievance you feel in there, them motherfuckers was going off world. But now they tell us that it was a slave transport situation. Them buildings is old as hell. They BC age buildings. But we don't know that though. But you can't find out when they was built. If the slave trade to America, they wasn't built for specifically to run slaves to America because those places was there before 1492.
Right.
They hadn't found America yet, officially.
Right.
In the historical narrative they gave us. If they haven't found America yet, who built them goddamn buildings and where was they shipping the slaves off before 1492? Where was they sending them to then? When you go back and listen to the historians that's working there as curators explaining the history, they said that they had you banned slavery before any paleface from Europe ever got there.
Right.
That don't make sense from what they telling us because they want us to believe that all of the palefaces was the ones trading in all of the human cargo.
Right.
Right. Here's another problem that nobody's asking any questions about. Right. If the human cargo was being traded from West Africa, when did they start bringing them over here compared to when they was, because remember, there's this Mediterranean slave trade. We don't talk about that.
Right.
We don't talk about the people that was being transported across the Mediterranean Sea for the purposes of slavery. We don't talk about the prisoners of war that was captured as children that filled up the vassal villages of Europe. That was Mongolians, because that's who they was fighting. They were Vedics, because that's who they was fighting. When they won the war, if you don't know what the spoils of war, it won't make sense.
Right.
The women and the children was the top spoils of war. The women and the children.
That's right.
So now you got these vassal villages that's made up of Mongolians, Huns, and Hindus. This is the ones you see in Robin Hood, when the tax collector is going around collecting the taxes, that's the villages he's going to.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He's going to those villages because those are vassal villages. They don't have any rights. They have to pay duty to the crown. Right? That's where they populated the prisoners of war after they fought the Huns in the North Siberian region, the Mongolians in the Far East, and then in the Southeast they was fighting the Hindu people. Right? You got to remember, Xerxes was from Persia. Persia is Iraq. Iraq is part of the Indus Valley. Right? So if Xerxes came from Persia and his armies came from all of those Persian regions or those Vedic regions, he was fighting with Hindus and Africans as his army.
Yeah.
Right? Now, when Europe was making a march, they wouldn't make an incursion beyond the boundaries of Egypt. Because you had the Candace Queens was handing them some in the Ethiopian territory, right, which was southern Egypt. Then you had going west across North Africa, they was running into the Carthaginian armies, which gave you the rise of Hannibal. So they couldn't go into Africa like that. They had already got kicked out, first of all, in 711. That's why they end up going to Europe in the first goddamn place in 711 as Etruscans, right? As Venetians. We gotta remember, it's 12 so-called tribes of Israel, and it's only supposed to be 3 tribes left. The tribe of Dan, the tribe of Judah, and tribe of Levi and remnants of the tribe of Judah that was scattered between the other 2 tribes. It's called the remnant of Judah. This they teaching. I didn't teach that shit. That's what they told us. Right? So if they telling us this and we putting the story under scrutiny, then some stuff just don't add up. So when they came over here, remember, when the king get kicked out of his kingdom, they normally take as many of their assets with them, and then they need a serving class to carry that shit. Go back to the Exodus story, right? They said that when the so-called Hebrews leave Egypt, they leave with massive amounts of wealth. How did they get the wealth if they were slaves? How did they leave Egypt with massive amounts of wealth if they was the slaves? That don't make sense. But then that go back to what Ray Hagner said about them trying to give us somebody else's story to follow for liberation. Because if the God of the Hebrews liberated them from Egypt all the many years ago, surely we can count on him to deliver us from the devil today. It's not going to happen. You don't even know where the devil. They don't even know where the devil at today, Elder. Where's the devil today? You remember that scroll?
Yeah. Where the devil is at today. Because he jumped spots once the Honorable Elijah Muhammad started saying, hey, the white man. Then he jumped, But his whole time, it's been, he was come as black looking. The whole time. Dark skin looking.
You ever see that movie Crossroads with Ralph Macchio? The guy that played the Karate Kid was a guitar player? I told it to you once before. But anyway, if you go there and watch that movie, when they get to the crossroads, here comes his brother in this shiny ass car. Guess the character he's playing? He's the devil who you sell your soul to.
Yeah, at the crossroads.
Right. So he wasn't no pale face.
Right.
We let that sink in.
Hey,
they tell us a lot of stuff through entertainment, but they won't tell it to us direct. We have to know our culture to know what they're telling us. Because everything they telling us tell us that if we knew our culture, we would know what they were saying. Steven Seagal got a movie called Marked for Death, where where he fighting two voodoo brothers. It wouldn't have turned out like that in real life. Fuck what you talking about, fuck who you telling. But, you know, just like Gil Scott said, why can't you understand? There ain't no such thing as a Superman. Yeah, B movie. Somebody always came to save America in the B movie.
Hey, Raw, I want you to tell me what you think about these. Tell me what you think. I'm gonna roll 3 clips, and then they real short, but I want you to tell me what you think about these 3 clips. Now, it was a movie. We already know.
What food stuff that you talking about? That's African. I ain't no African. Well, I'm Indica. We're proud people. And I'm American. I was born here. My mammy and my daddy was born here. And my daddy's daddy. I ain't no African. Bad time on Mandinka.
I was at a university not long ago and talked to a group of black law students. And I asked them to identify the names of 5 African ethnic groups that were brought to the Americas. Since there were more than 100, I just said, name me 5. And these law students could not name one. I asked them to name me 5 European ethnic groups, and they could name 20. Question has to be, how is it that students who are considered the best and the brightest go through school, K through 12, 4 years of college, and come out and have never learned the name of one African ethnic group? In other words, they don't even know who they are.
Wait a minute.
Hey, what you think about all that, Rod? Because they were saying that we ain't never seen no Africans over here to this dude.
Yeah, those first 2 clips was from Roots.
Yeah.
Right. And so Kente is supposed to be from Guinea, West Africa.
Right.
So he telling them this is a Guinea man. Y'all don't know nothing about no Africans. Right. Now look at the skin tone, and he telling them they don't know nothing about no Africans. Why wouldn't they know about Africans? They wouldn't know about right. The only way they won't know about Africans if they ain't from Africa.
Right.
Right. So the lady went and told them generations she been here.
Yeah.
Right. Now the presumption is that she been over here for generations under the yoke of slavery, as the narrative they gave her.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go listen to what Sister Tyson tell Robin Gibbons in The Women of Brewster Place, it's the same thing. She told her, I'm 100. We said my daddy was 100% Iroquois. Let that sink in. You know, and most of us don't know that most of these entertainers, Big Chief, they just got a different, like B.B. King, Bobby Blue Bland, right? Little Richard, his name was Chief Screaming Hawk. You can Google it and see what Little Richard his name was Chief Screaming Hawk.
He put so many people on. James Brown, Bootsy Collins, the Beatles, everybody. Otis Reddick. Everybody was with him.
Yeah, they called James Brown the King of Soul, so they don't have to tell you that he's king of the Brown clan. Remember, I just told you the Browns is one of the biggest clans on the land.
Yeah, and the Browns got the most #1 hits. The Browns clan, because Chris Brown is #1 on pop R&B. He got the most hits. He got more than Michael Jackson on the billboards. More hits. The Browns. And if you take him and James Brown and combine them, they landslide everybody else. As far as the number.
Don't leave out Bobby.
Oh yeah, I ain't forgot about Bobby, right? Bobby. You add Bobby now, that's a whole nother. The Brown clan is big when you come down to the music. They the baddest, one of the baddest guys. And with dancing, if you notice how Chris Brown danced, and then how James Brown did, really Chris Brown really the best dancer right now in like of this time. He
got the rub from Mike. You remember? I remember that.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, Mike too. Mike got the rub from James.
Yeah. James got the rub from Mr. Bojangles. What's the little dude name?
It's
Mr.
He
Bojangles,
used to do the splits.
Sammy Davis
Come
Jr.
back there.
Right. We all watching masters be replaced by masters, but we don't know what we're looking at because we've been taught to be the victim. As long as we taught to be the victim, we can't see victory. As soon as we realize just because you're prisoner of war, ain't no shame in that shit. That means you was fighting. Right? Being a slave mean that you just accepted that shit and said, come on in and do what you want to do to me and then make all the money you can off my life.
Yeah, Hoppo beat
That's
me.
retarded. That don't make sense.
Hey, another thing about the Kunte, the Kunte thing. Now, it was a tribe in Africa that were what they call the Mandingo, which was a mix between the like some Hindu mix, the Dinka, and the Dogon people. It was a whole nother tribe, and the royal family of that tribe were called a Kente. Now they come up with this story saying that they kidnapped this Kente dude and brought him over here, but that's a lie because the Kentes came over here on their own under Mansa Musa and Abu Bakr. They were Kentes.
Remember, I keep saying we've been marrying royal families from Africa to the royal families in America, all up and down the Eastern Shoreboard for thousands of years. So that's not strange that we would have connections to Africa. What's strange is that we would be told that we have no connection to America.
Yeah, that's right.
Strange.
Yeah, that we come from Africa.
But that go back to the George Washington challenge. At the end of 200 years, you won't know what side of the water you from. You won't know your ancestry from the ancestry of the ones who mix with you.
Yeah. And like another thing too, Rod, what's interesting I find too is they said they was gonna gaslight us while we stand on the land of milk and honey. Meaning tell us Africa where the wealth at. Now in the storyline of Mansa Musa, he come over here and get gold and go back to Africa and be the richest guy over there. So how that happened if all the gold in Africa? How he come over here, we slowed him down, almost sank his boat. I think Abu Bakr took some gold back with him the first time, and then once Abu Bakr came back, he never did return. And then Mansa Musa sailed over here looking for him, and he brought 3,000-4,000 ships full of Mandingos and Africans over here to mix. This is way before. This is 100. This is like the 300s. Now this right here like the 1310s. It's like 100 and almost 200 years before Christopher Columbus came over here.
They came before Columbus.
Yeah, 200 years before Columbus. And it could have been people that came before Mansa Musa. That's the storyline that they don't even tell us that story really, but that's a storyline we can find. I believe that it was already we was already going over there before Mansa Musa came over here. I believe the original Americans built ships. We had the biggest navy, and we sailed over there and taught Mansa Musa some kind of way could be a long descendant of the people who left America and went over to there, because they got a storyline that say that they left from over here and went over there, and they've been holding that for a long time. They ain't never told us that.
Yeah, most of the West Coast tribes or traditions say they came from the land across the waters to the west. Most East Coast Africa, but remember, if I tell you we've been marrying these people on the East Coast to Africa, America to the West Coast of Africa for thousands of years, why would that sound abnormal?
Right.
Because we used to tell the history, how did you meet mama? How you meet daddy? That's where it started. This is where the children want to be enthralled with the story of mama meeting daddy. Right. And if it's a compelling story, they hearing a love story. Right. So most marriages was arranged. Most marriage was arranged in order to keep local control. You can't control your shit, and you can't tell you who come in and who come out your claim. So you would arrange the marriage, especially when you talk about royal families. Well, we understood genetics long before Europe ever was of any mention. We've been dealing with everywhere you see the two serpents wrapped around the staff, That's the DNA helix.
Mm-hmm.
It go way back further than almost anything that Europe produced.
Yeah, Stafford.
And then it's weaved all through their culture too. That means it's
They ride around on the ambulance right now.
DNA at work. Mm-hmm. Somebody's working on the DNA.
Mm-hmm.
We thinking that genetic science is just evolved. When you read Anunnaki tablets, they got whole genetic teams. Under the order, you got the ones that came from Nibiru with Enki, then you got the ones he raised here to be geneticists like Tahuti. Right? Then you got the ones that was responsible for commanding militaries like Enlil and Marduk.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And Marduk. All three of them commanders. The two Marduk and Marduk, that's one is Enki's son, one Enlil's son. So we get it all of the stories when they use that, they do it to deliberately confuse the posterity. Because if you don't know what happened, when you're reading the story, the way that they tell the story will mislead you into another narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the paperwork. The more paperwork you do, the more paperwork you have to do to maintain your paperwork system.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, why is that? Because once you tell one lie, you got to cover it up with another one.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's so many forms for taxes and so many forms for UCC redemption process. All of that is because when you tell one lie, you got to cover it with another one. When you fill one piece of that bullshit paper out, you got to fill out another one. They don't have nothing to do with us. Their use of paperwork is not the same as the tribes. The paperwork didn't override the spoken word. That's why the oral tradition overrides their written tradition, because it was here first, it was here longer, and then first in time is first in line.
Hey, if I roll that corn, then let's roll that corn. We got some hot shit. We got some hot stuff here.
Let's go.
All right, let's see what we got next.
Slavery was fake. There were prisoners of war, though. A slave is a genetic determination, a Slav. These are prisoners of war in prison camps. Most of the men were slaughtered and the women and children were taken captive into slavery. These are just some of the examples of Aboriginal slavery that they tell us. This is only possible because the tribes were divided. This is ultimately why the resets happen. There have been at least 5 resets. That is why we see different eras of architecture in the Tartarian infrastructure. The fall from Eden was a reset. The Great Flood was a reset. The Tower of Babel was like a super evolved 5G tower, a communication tower. This reset changed the ether and scrambled the thoughts. Sodom and Gomorrah was a reset, indicative of meltology. As you can see, the mountains were the buildings. There are examples all over the Americas. The so-called natives identify with a low-tech culture. That's how you know they weren't the original people that were here that experienced those resets. They merely moved in. Native means born here, not Aboriginal. An Englishman that's born here is technically a native. Exodus was a form of a reset. The crossing of the Baja from Mexico, aka Mitzrayim, into Canaan, aka California. And finally, we have the Babylonian exile, which was the slave trade. The slave trade was actually from North America to South America via the Caribbean, and vice versa. Those slaves were prisoners of war. Aboriginals. Millions of North American Shemites were brought to South America, and many South American Hamites were brought to North America. People lost wars and were shipped to the Caribbean. They were then reclassified before they were shipped to their destination. The average life expectancy on plantations was 7 years. It is not cost effective to ship them across the Atlantic when there is already an imprisoned population here. But yet the population of so-called slaves in America supposedly grew to almost 9 million by 1900. So in 240 years, the population went from less than 400,000 to 4 million by 1860, and then more than doubled in 40 years. The slave population grew because black slavers bred with their slaves. The fathers were killed, the mothers were taken.
Black Americans were cannibalized by white Americans, believing them to be.
We all know the story about how Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492. He headed straight to the Caribbean, where he went to play.
Well, what you see in this picture, this is the original slave trade. Once again, they knew it, but they're not going to talk about it. Many scholars, so-called scholars, knew that.
The African slave trade is a business, and all businesses have documents. Let's look at those documents and see why they've been hiding them from us forever. The Slave Trade Manifest says that they boarded the boat at the SS Texas and that they got off at the port of New Orleans. What the fuck does that have to do with the transatlantic slave trade? Nothing. Yes, nothing. People came from the Caribbean. Anyway, moving forward. Down here it says, we declare that none of these people have been imported to the United States since 1808. Imported means you're an immigrant. So they just told you none of these people are from anywhere other than the United States. And then it goes on to say, we believe that these people are to be laborers and to serve for life. So help us God. And they was right. So help you God. So when you add the story up.
So yeah, Rod, based on them, the two, they saying that they brought slaves from South America, from Mexico over here, and they were dark-skinned people, and then they just really moved them around the land. They just shipped us around on our own land, and then called us slaves. They didn't bring us from Africa. They just really shipped us around on our own land. What you got on that, Rod?
So in the late 1700s, the scramble for Africa, when they called the Berlin Conference, is when they named the continent Africa. That's the first point. Before that, there was something in Brazil, a province known as Africa.
I saw. I've seen that.
Okay,
Yep,
now,
I've seen it.
when you see Africa in these documents, it don't always mean what we know today as Africa.
That makes sense. Go ahead.
Because if the document was written before Africa was called Africa, it's talking about another geographical location called Africa. Because how can you call something before it's named?
Right.
So if you read a document from the 1600s talking about Africa, they can't be talking about that continent wasn't called Africa right then.
That's right.
It wasn't named until after the Berlin Conference.
Divide us up. Africa.
Right.
Divide up.
But it's to confuse you, just like the Chinos that came into China Road in Mexico and amalgamated with the locals, right? We call them Chinos. They got Asian ancestry, but they also got Aboriginal ancestry. Right? What do the word Aboriginal mean by syllable? Right? So ab, that's the Kemetic term that means heart.
Yeah.
Or is the scientific designation for organ. Organ is a energy that can be accumulated into a product, so you can make stuff out of it, but it has properties that can be infused with intention. And it's also got healing properties. All right. And the last part of the three-part compound word is genio. Genio means of the genes or the DNA of the genetics. So when you put the word together from what the origin of the syllables is, you got ab, heart, or spirit energy, genio. The original genetics, the original spirit genetics of the ab, or the heart. Right? So when you call us Aboriginal, this is what you're talking about. You're talking about the original root stock of people on the planet. The original root stock is all Mississippian. Oldest bloodline on the planet.
He said we didn't call ourselves native, we call ourselves the Aborigines, because he said native is a new term. And the native
Native is the derivative from what's called the Nativist Party, which was a political party.
Okay.
And this is where you get birthright citizenship through the Nativist Party. They're the ones that lobbied that. This is why they call them natives, because they was born here under birthright citizenship. But that still don't override the fact that we never surrendered our jurisdictional authority. All our leadership was murdered and killed in warfare. So the interim government just took it up on themselves to say, we're going to administrate our government.
Right.
Until y'all can figure out how to run the government. That's why Noble Drew Ali said, I'm going to leave these people in power long enough for you to learn how to run a government. What is he talking about? There's no sense of getting free and you don't know what the fuck to do to take care of yourself. More people today can take care of themselves than ever before. Right? We can figure it out now. More people are literate today than ever before. There has never been this many literate people on recorded record. If you go back to just 1900s, it was like literacy was only like 5%.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? And that's not very many people.
Well, in the English language, not in our own language, we can read our own shit now. We just
Well,
couldn't
you
read
got
their
to
shit.
remember that the classification for literacy was the ability to be able to read the common language, which is English. But you're right. Under our tribal systems, we did stuff through the oral tradition. We didn't need to write everything down. We just needed to learn something called concepts. Once we grabbed the concept, we weren't told how to micromanage ourselves. We didn't have people like the government today micromanage you. Your slave papers, your slave papers today, they call it identification.
Right.
That's the same as slave papers. Look, when the slave catcher used to think you was a runaway slave and he stopped you in your horse and buggy, what was the first thing he used to ask you? Where your papers?
Yeah, where your papers at?
And what the police ask you now? The first thing they ask you when they pull you over, license and registration, please. License, insurance, and registration, please. Them your compliance papers.
Permission to be free.
Yeah. That's what they call it.
When they asked for them slave for the papers, they was their permission to be free. A paper. Why are these people cold, boy? That's a cold piece right there, bro.
Did your master write you permission slip to lead the plantation, son?
Damn, boy, that's cold. That's a cold piece.
Most of history they tell us, but they tell us using misdirection. Because they slant the stories to make it look, if you don't know your culture, you won't know where you fit in the narrative.
Yeah.
And that's why I be so observant everywhere I go. I just watch how people, in the area, because you got every major city, every city has its own spirit.
Right.
And if you sit there and you tune into the spirit of that city, then you start watching the people, you'll know how they move. Right? You okay, so this tribe is them. Because that was the tribe that did this. Right? We know Memphis is Memphis, where it's hard on the sleeve. You're going to get just what you see in Memphis. If a motherfucker in Memphis tell you he finna shoot you, you finna get shot.
Yeah.
If he tell you he finna run that fade with you, he gonna run that fade with you.
Yeah, I like to say a fight come with it.
That's just how Memphis always been. So when you go to Memphis and you say, is these the people from the ancient Memphis? All you gotta do is sit around and watch and see, because Memphis wear their heart on their sleeve. They don't hide shit. Even if they make a mistake, they'll be like, well, I fucked up. So I fucked up. People fuck up. It's not a big deal. Where in other parts of the country, you make a mistake, you feel bad, you're trying to figure out how to fix it. And then feel like, I fucked up, motherfucker. It's just fucked up. Now let's go. We go either fix it or forget about it, go do something else. Right? The people in the area vibe with the spirit of the area and they behave according to that energy.
Yeah.
And it's just like Chicago. GDs can go where Stones at with no problem if they respectful. Stones can come where GDs at with no problem if they respectful. If you come with disrespect, you're going to get treated disrespectfully and they're going to do you bad no matter what group you come from. If you go disrespectful to their territory and you know it's their shit, they're going to holler at you disrespectfully.
Yeah.
Because you're carrying yourself disrespectful in their territory. I know because I'm a GD that was hanging out in Motown. I didn't have no problem on no Stones. Matter of fact, we did all kind of debauchery together. Smoking weed, drinking alcohol, doing narcotics, all kind of shit. robberies, burglaries. We was into it all. I'm folks, they stone. We doing this shit together. Or they vice lord, whatever the case may be. So we know how to deal with each other when we know how to respect the area that we in, and we don't have problems, right? I can't go to California just because I'm a GD and claim a Crip sect because they blue. I can't do that. But I can tell them, hey man, I'm from the Midwest. My set, we folks, but you know what I'm saying? I'm not over here with y'all politics. I'm just making myself known to the OGs on the set, so I had no issue. That's where the original check-in came at. We talked about that before, though, Elder.
And I got another question for you, Rod.
Mm-hmm.
Now, being that this Black History Month, and that we know we ain't black, and that pretty much a lot of people on to the black gang, the black Carlos Linnaeus, the Walter Plecker, the Nationalization Act 1790, where they robbed us. So we on to the black gang. So do you think that this Black History Month and that these people that's promoting it is gonna continue? Like, do you think that? Do you see this going out and everybody being aware of, hey man, this black, say it loud, black and I'm proud, or I am somebody, Jesse Jackson game.
Some
He
of
never
us
did
is
say who
still,
it was.
look,
He just said
some
I
of
am
us,
somebody. Go
yeah.
ahead.
So, some of us are still going to identify with that terminology, no matter what nobody say.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But remember, you're allowed to self-identify.
That's right.
Can't nobody tell you who you is. You tell the world who you is, then you standing in your power.
Mm-hmm.
If you gotta
like
wait for the government to validate who you are, then you're gonna be waiting a long time because they don't give a shit about you. But if you exercise your rights and force their hand, that's another animal.
Mm-hmm. They keeping this. They gonna keep it going. In that the slave. Oh, don't you want to be a slave? Like man, nah. I remember, you know what? When I was a young boy, I was probably like about maybe like in the 9th grade, and I met my stepmama's grandma. Man, she was like 124 years old. And she was sitting on the porch, black, real black. She was mean too, boy. I don't know about them black people, they be mean in the mud, boy. She was dark skinned, black, had that long blue hair. And she said that my people
Elder,
ain't never been no slaves, huh?
as Malcolm said, if you ain't an angry black man in America, you an insane black man in America.
Oh yeah, she was mad. She was angry, boy. And she used to drink a little can of beer every day and do snuff. And she was 124. And she said that I don't remember picking on cotton. I don't remember my mama and them, grandma and them picking on cotton. And then look, she said somebody making this up. And I used to think, and you know what, my stepmother, she wasn't a woke back then. She used to say, "Oh ma, you just talking crazy." You know what I'm saying? Grandma, because she used to take care of her, right? Because she was a nurse. My stepmama was a nurse, and she used to go down there and check on her, but she's 124 years old, still moving around. But she said that I ain't never seen know nothing about no slavery, and I ain't picking no damn cotton now. I'm telling you now. And she used to say that when we was younger. And now it's all coming to my mind.
Well, you gotta
That she
remember,
was going crazy.
you gotta remember, cotton only come from specific parts of the land. Other places, the popular crops during the era was tobacco, sweet potatoes,
and corn,
and sugar beets, sugar cane.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So they was used. That was all what they call cash crops.
Yeah.
Later on, they started adding the beans in there and the tomatoes in there, but that wasn't originally the major crops that they was getting the money for. Because remember, all of this was to send this shit back to Europe. That wasn't for us.
Right. It was picking us, man. Pickpocketing.
So the question is if this government was for us, why they taking our shit to Europe?
Right.
We ain't getting compensated. Then, as far as the gold you mentioned earlier, you got to remember, Cordoba. Cortez was looking for the city called Cordoba, which they refer to as the city of gold.
Mount Rushmore.
Right. So as long as they look, they had the California gold rush. Think about that. But they wasn't using the gold to take care of the tribes. They was sending it back to Europe.
And they was exterminating the tribes.
Yeah, and they was sending the wealth back to Europe. That tell you what, all you got to do is follow the money. Follow them. The colonizers came over here to do trade. That's what they originally told people.
Hey, I got
That's
another
what-
I got a quote. My bad, bro. I got a fucking quote. I got something that go along with what you saying right now. Fucking clip.
Play it. No, roll the corn.
What do
let's
all
talk
these
about
countries
another-
have in common? They were all colonized by Britain. Now imagine they joined forces together, demanding that everything Britain took must be brought back, holding the UK responsible for centuries of extraction. This is what would happen within 6 months. Month 1, shock. The announcement shakes the world. Markets drop, the British pound falls, and global media erupts. Former colonies file lawsuits and freeze small UK assets. Britain enters emergency meetings instantly. Month 2, pressure. More countries join the demand. Trade slows, boycotts begin, and investors start pulling money out of the UK. For the first time, Britain feels real economic heat. Month 3, Britain bends. Legal cases multiply. The UK tries offering apologies, cultural loans, and talks. But the coalition refuses symbolic gestures. Month 4, squeeze. The pound weakens further. UK businesses warn of losses. Public protests shake London as the crisis deepens. Month 5, forced negotiations. Britain officially calls coalition leaders for talks. Reparations, artifacts, and compensation are now on the table. Month 6, turning point. After everything that happened up to month 6, the truth is this: the British economy will not collapse, but it will definitely never be the same. It will lose trust, lose respect, and lose the confidence it once enjoyed on the world stage. Imagine all the former British colonies united and demanded justice at once. What do you think would happen?
What's the thing I'm trying to figure out, bro? Because I think this is a elaborate game. Now, how that small little piece of and these little people right here take over all them other spots without some kind of manipulation, and all was that one spot like our center point, and they just took over that spot, and then from there began puppeting it. Like, how did they do? Like, it don't make no sense to me how they had that one little island, and then they take over all these people's land. This shit is kind of crazy.
Well, it's about control, military might. Yeah, remember the British at the time that the British, the colonies began to set up in America. Britain had the most powerful military.
How? But how are they the smallest fucking country on the how?
It don't
Bigger
matter
than
right
us?
now.
A bigger
Look,
military than us, the American.
our military didn't go around the world picking on other people. We was here for self-defense.
Man, you know what I think, Rod? You know what I think? I think that land was a part of this, like we had an empire that stretched a long ass way, and I believe that land was part of our empire, and then it got overthrew. That's what I believe, because it don't make sense that they had a big ass military. Bigger than the Africans.
During the
They had a
era,
bigger military than the Africans. Oh my bad. It's cutting me out.
they had mechanized military. Military warfare evolved, and the ones who was making the equipment was in Europe. They was making the gun. Remember, guns are not 500 years old yet. Wait a minute. The guns are under 1,000 years old. Right? When you're looking at the military, they was shooting muskets. But rest of the world was still fighting wars. They might have had cannons, but they didn't have guns. Right? They didn't have 45s. They didn't have switches. So when you're looking at the military, you got how did they bolster their military? With foreign soldiers from earlier conquest. This is how the Asians, the Mongolians got over here. They paired their military with foreigners. They captured little boys and raised them to be soldiers in their army. And this is how they is bolstering their ranks. And some of these boys might be the children of military-minded individuals that got a knack for it because it's in his genetic code. And he ascend the ranks of the military and become commander. One of them, he became the Emperor of Rome. What's his name? Africus Severus or something? Severus Africus. But he was born in Africa. And he was put in the Roman military and rose to general. And then at some point he became the emperor. You gotta remember how warfare was fought back then is not the same as how it's fought back now. And the soldiers in the armies from back then, they didn't have a draft. They raised their soldiers from the conquered lands. This is why the children is part of the spoils of war, because the little boys is going to be taught to be loyal to the people that just kidnapped them, and they're going to give them the worst case of Stockholm syndrome they ever had. That's what's wrong with us, Stockholm syndrome. But we identifying with the wrong motherfucker because they ain't the captors.
Right.
Right? It's like the zoo owner never go to the zoo, but all of the zookeepers is there tending to them animals. It's the same way it works.
You know something, Raw? You just gave me a lot of shit, man. And that I think about it, I know I got an idea on how the shit got turned upside down. So based on what we went over so far with the 1718 thing, when they brought all the convicts, now it seemed like to me when these British Moors started taking all of these convicts, white convicts or pale convicts, to be correct,
They were just convicts.
Yeah, convicts, right? Now they took them to America, Australia, all the places that we just on that list that she just named. All them countries, these people flushed their toilets, convicts onto all of these places. They set up penal colonies.
Well, it's not a secret that Europe emptied its unwanted out to settle the foreign lands. That's not a secret. They tell us that. They tell us they emptied out the brothels and sent the whores. They emptied out the prisons, sent the criminals. The same thing Cuba did during what Scarface is based on. They did the same thing. Kick them out of the country and send them to America. Right. But we got to remember, it's something else going on. Why would you want to send these people all over to these foreign places? It's about genetics, breed the criminal behavior out of the tyrant.
That's interesting.
That's why they need a drop of blood.
Yeah. Also, Roy, it seemed like if you follow the storyline, it seemed like when they brought all these convicts, and it was millions of them, that pretty much was the real Atlantic slave trade. They brought a whole bunch of them over here to Australia, like I said, South Africa. But it seemed like if you follow the storyline, it seemed like at some point after like a certain amount of years, like it was 60 years over here, that they turned on these British Moors and fought against them. That's the American Revolution over here. It's called something else over in Africa when they turned against them. But over here, it's called the American Revolution. They fought against these British, and they saying some of our people might have helped them. Maybe because we gave them the one drop of blood. We had family members with them. But eventually, it seemed like once they got these dirty British Moors off their back, the redcoats, which they never did get them off their back, really, financially, because they still run puppet in the game right now. Because the 1812, they really didn't ever. They came back and burned all the records so they could keep them in the game. 1812, but I'm talking about these guys turn against these guys, and then they turned on us. It seemed like they turned the convicts that were everywhere on all these lands that lady just called out. They eventually turned on the natives and start attacking them. So it's like these dirty Moors dropped the devil off everywhere. They didn't want to split the devil around and put them on, or the middleman or whatever you want to call them on to us. And eventually they turned on us after they got through getting the Moors off their back, the dirty Moors from Britain. They turned on us.
You know, they never turned on us. They were never working with us.
Okay.
They
stole what's still in our land.
Look, during the George Washington challenge, this was George Herbert Walker Bush. He said, since the niggas from boat don't know what side of the water they from, I'm just gonna take this bitch while they're not looking.
What?
That's why he declared himself the permanent president, King George I, United States of America, by Senate Select Committee in 1989 in the wee hours of the morning. But here's the thing. Those people, it's like right now, if the inmates that's locked up decide they don't want to be locked up, you can't keep them in prison. Now, imagine you send them across there to an island and imprison them on that island. When they get off and they run into the natives of the island, they're going to either try two things: to communicate with them, or they're going to have to try to get rid of them because they might be hostile. Right? So they wasn't never working with us. They never was part of the tribal nothing. So they couldn't turn on us because they weren't never working with us. Only people they could turn on, the only people they could turn on is the ones that brought them over here. But the only way that's going to work, this is how you end up with some of us helping them. They have to make some alliances to enforce their sovereign rights, their freedoms.
Right.
But the crown was smarter than the colonizers.
That's right.
Why do I say that? Because the crown gave you the illusion that you won. As long as the tax dollars don't stop.
That's right. God damn, that's how they put. It's a back door. Left the back door.
Our patriotism is really us celebrating our destruction, tribally speaking.
Damn, that's cold.
And most of us believe in the system. We believe in the system more than we believe in ourselves. So we don't think there's nothing that we can do to straighten this crooked system out. And we got the right to overthrow it. Right? The treaty that they was allowed to come in under got the remedy and the solution. We went over that already.
Yeah.
So we put it in. So now, once you get served the eviction, you got to get the motherfuckers out off the land. Right? So it's a system. A system comes with a process. A process comes with start and finish. But in the middle, we don't know how long it takes for stuff that we ain't never did before, or that we haven't done in so long it's nowhere recorded.
Right.
Right. What the redemption that's taking place now is not just national, it's global.
Right.
All of the matriarchs of the earth is taking their shit back.
Right. Everybody complaining.
Right. So when they asserting tribal rights, when they be putting their tribal mothers back in charge, they already doing the work. And so we can point it out to other people so they can see that this ain't just us. This is the end of an era. And with the end of the era, all of the corrupted systems and the systems that have become corrupted have to be purged. But we also have to know where's all our assets.
Right.
Who got my shit? So we gonna need a special accounting firm to come in and do an independent audit of the government, and the government gonna have to pay the bill. So when you seen it happen, they called it Doge, Department of Government Efficiency, came in to audit the nation. They still auditing. There's the reason this shit ain't over with. They still finding lots and lots of money and babies. When I say money, I don't just mean fiat currency. The money is all of that shit that be on the table when they do a raid. All that's money. The guns, the drugs, the dollars, the whatever they got up there is a form of exchange. So when they going through doing all of the accounting, they got to give a dollar value to the AK-47, the SKS, the M16, the MAC-10, the MAC-11, the 12 gauge, the AA 12 gauge. They got to all have a dollar value as an asset in order for the books to be properly kept. Because if you take something from somebody, you have to know the value of what you just took. And they took everything from us, so we taking everything back. So everything that they get back has to be accounted for. Right? They can't leave a screw unaccounted for. And that's why they got teams of accountants going in all over the country. Meanwhile, you got civil rights group that's going all over the country, putting all of the state legislators and city councils on notice for violating their contract. They broke the contract. Because once... Go ahead, Al.
I'm going to ask you, that brings me to my next question. Because you it's like you was going to walk right up on it. So let me just ask this question so you can keep going. Now, this Constitution, we know that it's been hijacked. It's pretty much a contract that we set up with them to do business on our land, and they had to abide by these certain rules, but they usurped it with the 13th and 14th Amendment, pretty much turning us, pretty much slavery never stopped. Slavery never stopped. It just turned us over to federal jurisdiction. So how do we deal going forward from now on out? Do we respect the Constitution? Because it's a fraudulent contract now. They got two of them though. The original one is still good. The one that they operating off is the second one. But so how do we do if this was the rules and regulations in the supreme law of the land, and now they operating off this admiral jurisdiction and all these administrative courts? That's all these commercial codes and regulations and shit. So do we still honor the Constitution? Being that we know that it's been hijacked and fraud?
Well, the Constitution is also being used to liquidate the corporation.
Okay.
The same way that we came in is how we exit. So the tribal government gave way to the republic.
Okay.
The republic is put together by tribal government, but it was usurped by European powers. Which is how we ended up with the second Constitution, which put us under the corporate United States, which gave us our Proclamation of Emancipation. Look, when they did the Emancipation Proclamation, the word emancipate in a political sense means to transfer ownership. They pay who they call slave owners reparations for liberating their slaves. But they was putting the slave owner under the same system of chattel slavery as the slave without his knowledge. So the Crown is saying, look, since they don't want us to just enslave this group of people over here, just put all of them under slavery under the 13th and 14th Amendment. Right? So now, to give you the illusion of freedom, they give you what's called an underlying condition in which servitude can be enacted. Once you making a certain amount of money, you no longer classified legally as a slave. Your designation changes when you make more than minimum wage. You become something called an employee or a worker. Right? Remember, when they got something called the Human Resources Department in most corporations.
Right.
The human resource is the machine they're going to use to fill slot A on the assembly line. Slot A is filled, and the person that's filling it is going to be burning this amount of BTUs per hour performing this function. which equates to this many calories, meaning they're gonna need this much food to eat in order to perform the task. All right, so that equates to a hourly rate of expenditure of energy. Based on the hourly rate of expenditure of energy, now they got to determine how they got to give you enough to feed yourself for that duration, right? And then they got to give you some, not all, some fruits of your labor to satisfy your ability to take care of the children during the same period of time you was at work. Because the presumption is that you're going to have an average of 2 children, 1 boy, 1 girl. The presumption from that is that the mother's going to be working too. So they use what's called lifestyle. And the lifestyle is afforded by people that make this amount of money, right? And then they got a term for it. It's called your financial bracket. What is your financial bracket? Under $50,000, 50,000 to 150,000, 150,000 to 500,000, 500,000 to $1 million, 1 million to 5 million. They got brackets. Why do they got brackets? Because if you figure out that the harder you work, the less money you make, the smarter you work, the more money you make, you will change the way you apply your knowledge to your labor. They don't never want you to know that. So for each job, they say this job pays this amount of hour. Then you look around at what you're working with and you say, I can't survive on that amount of hour. I got to have a job making this much hour. Your survival is based on the monopoly game. In the monopoly, you don't own nothing that you don't have a card to. Anything you don't hold the card to in monopoly and you land on that property, you have to pay up, right? So the greenback is the monopoly money that they using for us to operate as if we using real currency.
That's right.
We were playing the game with gold, coal, diamonds, and stuff.
Right.
They came in and said, take that stuff off the board.
Yeah.
And we gonna play with this monopoly money. But there's a side effect. All of the stuff that you took off the board, I'm gonna put it in the bank. I can't use it, but I can borrow against it if my bank is in distress. Right?
Trustees.
That's called a bank trust.
Yeah, they trustees. Yeah, go ahead.
They're trustees. So they holding everybody's stuff that's at the monopoly game. Then they replaced all of the cards with slips. The slip is called a loyal title. You don't need no title on the land because you can't own it. Even if you buy it, if you die, you can't take it with you. It's gonna still be here. Matter of fact, we're gonna bury your ass in it to prove to you that it's gonna be here when you leave. You can't own the land. But what you can do is you can tend to the land, take care of the land. You can work with the land. If you work with the land will take care of you. If you work against the earth will become your enemy. And this is why most of the rotten people that do rotten stuff to other people, especially people that do rotten stuff to animals, always end up dying a rotten death.
That's right. Hey, bro, what's your? Because I remember you teaching me about the flag on the coffins when the presidents die. If their flag is wrinkled, that means they was a traitor. Now,
and not necessarily a traitor, it means disgraced.
Okay, disgraced. Okay,
that means that they were less than honorable in their duties if their flag wrinkled.
Colin Powell, George W. Bush, his flag was wrinkled. Reagan. So let me ask you this. Now we know that some of them guys were working for this crown, and they stole a lot of our stuff. They were stealing a lot of stuff on the black market. Even and I know you ain't lying about they couldn't spend none of our natural mineral rights on our land, because so they had to heist it. They pulled a lot of heist, like the BP oil spill really was a heist to steal our reserve. Our biggest oil reserve is in New Orleans. We got enough oil to last us 21 years. We could go. America can run 21 years. Run all these cars that they producing for 21 years off of all that oil that we had in New Orleans before Katrina. But then BP, they come in and suck it all. They just come right in and suck all that oil off the water. It really was a heist, the biggest oil heist in world. I'm actually gonna do an AI on it. The biggest oil heist in world history.
You ever notice they got companies? They got companies designated to clean up oil spills, right?
Right.
These companies are called salvage companies. They already operating in salvage across the land. That's what all of the taxes and shit is about, and the paperwork. It's about cataloging your salvage. The side effect is it also allow you when it's the usufruct.
Yeah, that's
when
right.
you come back to reclaim your property under the usufruct, that paperwork serves as all of the receipts for what they did.
They wrote it down, what they did.
Yep. So just like in a Monopoly game, when they give you the card to say you own Park Place,
right?
They got to give you a piece of paper to say, okay, you got us. This is how much shit I stole from you. Look, they know who we all are. They know who we are better than we do. They've been watching us the whole time.
That's right.
Right. And so when it comes time to give us what's ours, they know how to find us. We ain't hard to find.
Yeah. They rogue trustees. Even to prove what you're saying, Rod, that they can't touch our stuff. They said the Smithsonian Institute is really like a bank. It's really a bank where they storing all of our artifacts, and they can't. And if you go look at the situation of how it's set up like a trust. It's set up like a trust, and the government is the trustees of this trust, the Smithsonian Institute, and it's got trillions of dollars worth of artifacts, diamonds. They got actual gold and diamonds and stuff up in there, in that place. Like they got some of our royal jewels that we used to wear for 1492, like the crowns. They got some royal shit jewelry inside of that place that they holding down in the vault, and they can't touch it, but because they saying that this is a you can go look it up. It's a trust. Smithsonian Institute is set up like a trust. Go ahead, Rod.
Yeah, so all of those institutes back then, remember, before they start opening up what's called colleges and universities, you went to go learn at an institute.
Right.
The institute it's like a extension of government. Right. So what the institute is set up as is it's a critical function that the government need done, but they don't have the department for it. So they hire a firm. Right. The firm they hired is called an institute, because not only do you teach, but you also perform duties. In this case, archaeology and anthropology is what they was focused on. So they had the responsibility of collecting artifacts on behalf of the corporation. When the corporation is liquidated, they have to be able to return all those assets or explain what's been damaged and why it was damaged. So they got to also with all of the paperwork, like everything in the Smithsonian got a file with it. Probably now it's all digital, but everything got a file with it. The file gonna tell you who found it, where they found it, and it's gonna tell you like the history behind the object or whatever it is. Now, in the movie National Treasure, Nicolas Cage showed you what the real wealth storage looked like on the land,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that
The
big
whole
vault
city.
is a cave.
Yeah, Mount Rushmore.
No, the one he went in the first National Treasure, he went in from New York, came up in D.C.
Yeah, they moved that one. See, look, that was the one Knights of Templar had under the Trinity Church on the Wall Street. They had it on. It was on Wall Street, and then they had some of it on the World Trade Center, and they were stole that gold from under the road. You heard about that, Rod?
The gold they stole under the World Trade Center was bars of gold, and they actually took these things of gold, wedding bands, gold
Yeah,
bands.
yeah.
The gold bands was put in there to on reserve under the Nazi regime by some Jews. When the
Yeah.
Nazis collected all of the rings, they gave it to some Jews, these two Jewish brothers. And they hid it in, they brought it over here to put it in the vault, to put it on secure vault. Because they wanted to establish Israel and use it in the financing of Israel. Anyway, so when they blew the World Trade Center, they had been loading trucks of gold up for days before anything happened on 9/11, right? So one truck didn't make it because when they blew it, something happened that made the tires blow out. So they left one of the van loads of gold behind, and that's how the heist was discovered.
Damn, boy. You know something, Rod? That because they call that dude Benjamin, like in Benjamin Banneker, and it was like 1790 when they said that he found that gold in the movie. That's what they say in the movie. It was 1790. That's the same year as the George Washington challenge, 1790, and then he found that, and then that's when George Washington got inaugurated as president in New York by and Benjamin Banneker was with him, his best friend. And then they say, oh, this dude, he found the treasure under this church. His name was Benjamin. And they talking about Benjamin, huh?
George Washington was a general before he was a president, right?
That's right. That's right.
But he was the first president, though, right?
Of U.S. Corps, I would say probably of U.S.
Hey,
Corps.
They told us he the first president, right?
Right.
Okay. Who made this motherfucker general?
Hey, they say he was under a dude named General Bulldog, but the Bulldog. I can't figure out how he got to be a general out of like so fast. I know he was sugaring his shoes and probably licking balls or something, work his way up. George, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, because look, him and his brother, look, his granddad was a slave brought to Barbados by these British Moors, the same way that
And I
I'm telling
remember
you.
we got 3 birth locations for George.
Yeah, he born in Barbados. I say he born in Barbados based on all of what I
That's
got.
the melanated George Washington.
Yeah, that's the real one. The real one.
George Washington, right?
Yeah,
But now,
yeah.
what about the one born in Virginia?
I think what they did is they used the Masonic code, and when he was brought into the lodge and he joined the 3rd degree, they say because he joined in Virginia, the lodge in Virginia. So when he born again in the 3rd degree, he said, they say, he born, and then if you read the storyline of Benjamin Banneker, he said that you need to change your name to Washington so you can tie into the land because you got to be president. Ought to be president. You got to be born on this land, and that was way before that rule was way before George Washington. So he wasn't even.
What about the George Washington that was born in France? He rose to the rank of the French military and became the top commander. They telling us these different stories, but we ain't supposed to recognize the difference in stories.
Yeah, that's right. I think one of them is Albert Pike's story, though. One of them is Albert Pike. One of them Georges is Albert Pike.
I think that's the Virginia George. And I think Adam Whitetop is the French George.
Yep. That makes sense, Rod. That makes sense. Because if you go back and watch the movie A National Treasure Hunt, he said that Queen Victoria's son Albert Pike looking for that city, looking for our city over here with the city of gold. Queen Victoria's son Albert Pike, and then he used a letter from Queen Victoria to Albert Pike to find the location of it in the movie, in the second one, right? Yeah, that was interesting. With Albert Pike's letter, with about the 3 World Wars, how to make it. I guess it's a connection there. What you think, Rod?
All I know is that
Yeah,
I don't believe the stories they told us because the shit don't line up right.
You don't. It just
That's
don't.
what I know. And I know that George Washington, if he was the Barbados George Washington, I could rock with him. The Virginia George Washington, the French George Washington, I can't rock with them.
No.
Right? If he was born in Virginia as a colonist, right?
Yeah.
That means he was a squatter.
Right. Right.
So I don't have no reverence for him. If he was born in France, he was a foreigner. He shouldn't be in charge of our government.
The Huguenots, yeah, they try to connect them with the Huguenots.
Right. So when they do that, they trying to murky the water so you don't see something they doing. And when we look at the materials, the protocols of Zion, we look at morals and dogma, we have an operational manual to what we've been screaming as white supremacy.
Right.
Right. It everything that we think is white supremacy is spelled out to do in the protocols of Zion.
Right.
Right. Now, if you go back to secret relations between blacks and Jews,
right,
a lot of these places where they were saying these slave owners was Jews, wasn't no pale faces there yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they had to look like the people of the land. They had to look like us. Those so-called Jews that was embarking those ships and setting up those businesses on the islands all across the land. Because the pale faces don't start coming over here until the 1600s.
Right.
Right. That's when they started off with indentures recruited from Ireland. That's what they started off with. But they found that the Irish people had a functional relationship with the tribes based on the people in the Appalachians and based on the people in Nova Scotia. So they had an affinity to work with us. And this is why the first slave catchers was called the paddy wagon. Because they was rounding up the Irish first. And the slang term for Irish back then was paddies. And they're making reference to fried potato patties, hash browns. Right. So they using that as a derogatory term when they call the Irishman a paddy. So the paddy wagon is like saying the nigger patrol. Same thing, different people. So if you go back and look, you'll see that a lot of the first wave of them they was bringing in was indentures, but the problem is they kept moving the goalposts on the indentures.
Yeah, that's right.
They come over here, right? They'll come over here with 5 years of service for their freedom, but what end up happening is they start getting loans from the master to keep them to extending their indenture status for life. Right? This didn't have nothing to do with us. We was just watching it. That's what David Walker talking about.
Right?
When you read David Walker's appeal, what is these people doing all bound up on the land? What's going on over here? I'm putting this out in the public so some of the chiefs can answer for this shit because I don't know what's going on. I came from a different part of the land and I don't understand what I'm looking at. But we don't remember our culture, so that's why a lot of this stuff sounds batshit crazy.
Yeah. Well, I don't know nobody really still promoting the slave narrative unless they getting paid. Slow or one. unless they get paid by the government. I don't know nobody promoting it. Like the people that I see still promoting it, they getting paid by the government, and like they on high ranking shows, and they got to keep their job, man. So they ain't say. They can't come out to say what we saying. They got to keep that same. Oh, they Hoppo beat us, man. Don't you want to believe Hoppo beat us and brought us over here now? Look what happened to it, man.
The youngsters got it now. They can't use the slave narrative to browbeat us into victimhood.
Yeah, that's right.
And as long as we don't fall into the mentality of being somebody's victim, we unbreakable. But when we accept that, oh man, we some bitch ass people.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy. Then they gonna stay in charge. But now their time is up, my time is now.
Yeah, it happened fast.
John Cena. Time is up, my time is now. Right. So it's right now down to the last little wire. We so close to the finish line, I can feel my neck touching that motherfucker.
Yeah. We don't believe nothing they say no more. We don't believe nothing they say. Like everything they say it was a fault. Like it's always some
we
kind
was
of
told
fault.
by our elders to question everything they say. It's just that some of us got institutionalized by the academic methods that we stop asking the questions that would lead to liberation and start asking the questions that make us comfortable in our suffering.
Yeah, right.
Right. So it's a difference to be confident in who you are and stand up for what you believe versus feeling defeated.
Right.
Stuck in learned helplessness. Well, this just how it is, and it's just gonna be that way. Well, somebody got to take the initiative to change this shit if we want to see a change.
Right.
And sometimes the initiative calls for you to explain what was done, so that once people know what was done, it don't work on them no more.
Right.
That's real vaccination right there.
We already broke down how they use the religion. It's all this is a layers and layers and layers and layers of bullshit to just keep us still our birthrights, like the religion, wait on G, all this whole fucking mechanism, man. The prison system. We want to get up out of here, but this is my another question for you, Rod. It seemed like us, and it might be a couple more other spots, but mainly us in America is the only people that got done the way we got done. We got labeled as black. We getting robbed every hour on the hour, essentially, in tax dollars. And well, we really ain't getting robbed because it really ain't imaginary money anyway. But but it's like we the only people that got reclassified and to wipe us out. All of our money is being hardwired. They taking real money, but they keep us in this fiat system, and all of our money is going to all these different places. And they built up, like in Dubai, they built the hell up with $1 billion buildings and advanced technology. We got the most advanced technology over here. Why do you think that we were the main targets in this whole the whole planetary scheme of robbing folks? We like the main targets, seem like, as a whole over here in America. Go ahead.
Because I'm here.
Go ahead. That makes sense. Go ahead.
Because Rod Hayes over here. They knew I was coming.
Look at this in Georgia. All right, yeah. Say it loud.
They knew I was coming.
They do the Skype ape at the Dolph Gate.
Yep, sooner or later they're gonna have to pay the piper.
Man,
I'm gonna be naming the new tune in a minute.
Man,
see,
they paying it, man.
Based on the structure, everything set up, Elder, I think it's an elaborate game board played out on Earth.
Man, it's just so man.
And I think that the easiest way to learn the rules to the different parts of the game is to learn different board games.
Yeah, layers.
Right. Learning the game is one thing, because once you know the rules to each one of those games, you start seeing stuff in life. The next thing is you have to understand the words that you're using so you can use them deliberately. So that means once you're playing these board games, bring you a dictionary, a huge dictionary, not the high school or junior high school elementary version. Bring the collegiate dictionary, the etymological dictionary, right? The dictionary of prefixes and suffixes, the thesaurus. Learn the words, because you learning the words, you can also see how words is used to pass off numbers, and numbers is used to pass off words. But if we don't never study none of this stuff, I'm just eccentric. I'm an eyeball. I just do my own little thing in my little corner. And then I got word from the old man that we needed to start brain banging and stop gang banging. And when I said, what do you mean by that? He mean get in the library and start studying. So I said, well, what am I supposed to study? They say everything. So I started studying everything. Stuff that people thought was weird. I was studying that too. Like my man on the Reach Stone had brother Carl who wanted to talk about knot magic. I was like, man, hey, out of all of this time I've been, you the first person to ask me about knot magic. Then I started getting all kind of cold, so I was like, oh man, I got to do a show with this dude about knot magic. So we went and did a show about knot magic. And the thing is that I didn't think I'd ever run to anybody that studied knot magic. When I was studying, when I'm studying knot magic, I'm like, I probably never run into nobody who know what none of this shit is.
And then boom. That's crazy. I ain't never heard of no shit like that. That's the first time you the first time I heard of it.
You don't remember what happened, Muhammad, the 13 knots in the well?
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
That's knot magic.
Yeah, okay, all right. I can see that.
Yeah, that's a Queen Mother curse.
I see where you're going with it.
So
y'all. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the 13 knots on that rope, that was, I think, one of the maids of somebody that Muhammad people killed put on him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? She tied 13 knots. That's because she was asking the mother to bind him on 13 levels. So this is why it was so critical. This is why they hate the number 13 all over the world, because they don't want to admit that it's the power of the divine feminine activated off the Queen Mother.
That's right.
Right? So once you recognize what it is, and then you can see, okay, that's what that means. But the study of knot magic, I had already been doing that because of what I've learned about the curse that was put on Muhammad with the 13 knots. So I started looking for knot magic and found a couple books on it and just delved into it a little bit.
That's interesting. That's weird. I'm about to go look into that knot magic because I'm doing the Hogwarts school. I can add that class. That'll be something I can add, to the extra stuff that I'm teaching. Hey, Raw, I got one more question for you. We're finna get up out of here. Hey, y'all, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, y'all. Hey, everybody, we got about 1,000 people on. We had about, I don't know how many people we had on because I can't check, but we got about 1,100 on right now. Everybody send Raw $5. If you can, send them 100 to put them in the game, man, until we come back on next time so we can keep the chief off the plantation, man. We need them watching these guys. If you can't send them $5, send them $1. I mean, if everybody send them $1, that'll be 1,000. Put them in the game, hold them down till next time. Send them 5 though. I like 5, 10. You know, we don't really care, you know. But show them some love. We're trying to keep this game going, man. We are closing them out. I mean, because Tariq said you was the closer, and we pretty much closed them out, bro.
We can shut them down on some real talk. We didn't shut them down with facts,
man. Ain't no coming back. So let me ask you this. As my last question. The slave narrative from this point on. So what do you think on that? Do you think, because I don't think we hear it like that much no more after this, like going to the coming years. The youngsters already know. Everybody know.
The whole narrative has been picked apart. The youth got a hold of that motherfucker like a pack of ravenous pit bulls. They want to see the ship.
Yeah.
They want to see one ship.
Yeah.
They're not going to settle, because if you can find an old Viking ship buried under the dirt over in Europe, some goddamn where that's 1,000 years older than a slave ship, we should have a slave ship.
Right.
If you can find an ancient ship in the pyramid from Egypt that's big as a cruise liner, we should have a slave ship.
Right.
If you can go under 50 years later, 100 years later, and find Titanic, we should be able to find a slave ship.
Right.
Right. I'm not talking about the 3 little planks left from the Clotilda, because we can't verify that's a slave ship.
Right.
Because we can't verify it, there's not enough of it intact.
Right.
Right. I'm not talking about the ones in the museums that say replica. Right?
Yeah.
Replica mean they made it up after the fact.
Right.
Right? Because you had to have an original in order to replicate it.
Right.
So I ain't talking about them. You got all these old ships. You got an old Chinese ship from the early AD period. Ho Chi Minh, and it's still intact, but you don't got a slave ship.
Right.
Look, you got a mammoth from 1,000,000 years ago in the permafrost. But we don't got a slave ship. We got the skeletal remains of Ceratops, Tyrannosaurus Rex, pterodactyl, but we don't got a slave ship. That was a couple hundred years ago. So the narrative they give us about packing us like sardines in the hull of a ship is retarded. It don't match up with the math.
Right.
So when was they doing bathroom breaks?
Right.
When was they going to the mess hall?
Or where they get water from? That shit salty as hell.
How they wash their ass? How they wash their ass? You gotta remember, pirates used to drink beer because they couldn't store water.
Right.
Because the water would putrefy.
Right.
So all of the pirates used to take beer, kegs of beer. So what was they giving the slaves? So they weren't finna get a beer to them. And they couldn't drink the salt water because they'd had diarrhea.
And probably died.
And then they would have been seasick because they was land dwellers, not ocean dwellers. So this their first voyage, and they getting rocked back and forth. So they gonna get seasick and throw up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they're gonna have to shit and piss. There's women on there that's gonna have menstrual cycles because it's a 90-day journey, according to what they tell us.
Yeah. Yeah. This is just a whole bunch of bullshit. It's a whole bunch of bullshit.
Now, we know that they told us that they used to lock the hull of the ship to keep the slaves under the bow.
Yeah.
Right? So with all that much piss, shit, vomit, menstrual cycle, sweat, tears, because motherfuckers crying too.
Yeah.
How long, and then you got to take into consideration them temperatures on the ocean is hot under that motherfucking hull.
Yeah.
If it's 98 degrees upstairs up above, that sun beating down and there ain't no doors open, it's finna be real hot and stuffy in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a whole gas chamber waiting to happen.
Yeah, they full of shit. They full of shit. And this is the end, man. We ain't gotta we ain't gotta beat it over nobody's head. If they want to still promote the slave narrative, they want to go, oh yeah, well you could be already in America. You got some dummies like this, bro. They say you could be already in America. See, but me, I got beat. Now, this is my last question, because it go along with this. Now, the reparations. That's what I was meant to ask you. Now, I think these people holding on to the slave narrative because they think that, hey, if I let go of the slave narrative, then that's like all the money, all the beating that my great granddaddy took. I ain't gonna get paid from it. Ain't nobody living now that was a slave. Ain't nobody living now that was a slave. Besides, the new system they got. So, what you think about they holding on to that because they say they gonna get some reparations from the government?
That's 'cause they don't understand that if you took your birthright, they wouldn't be able to afford to pay you reparations. If you take reparations, you have to leave them in power. And they have to pay you reparations out of what's already yours.
Damn.
But if you take your birthright back, not only do you take back the wealth, you also take the power back. I'd rather have my birthright than reparations.
Right.
Right. And those who want to hold on to the African narrative, they can wait for reparations. Reparations has never been a guarantee to anybody at any time.
That's the bowl of soup right there. That's that bowl of soup. They gonna
Yeah,
trade their
nobody
birthright for a bowl of
look,
soup.
nobody ever promised us reparations. We demanded it. Because we was under the false impression that we was cattle.
Right.
And we needed to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, but they kept stealing our boots.
Right.
So now we want reparations so that we could build. We don't need much to build.
Yeah.
We can build, we always do. From Black Wall Street to Rosewood to Atlanta to Chicago, we never needed outsiders support to build on our own. We just need people to get the F out the way and let us build on our territory how we see fit. We don't need you to tell us how we supposed to live on this land that belongs to us.
Right.
We need you to get the F out the way, go about your business, get off the land if you don't belong here. If you ain't got your drop of blood, you got to go.
Right.
Right? So once we get it all back, we can then, properly allocate the resources. Everybody got a heritable birthright that they can access. Some people have to leave here to get theirs.
Right.
If you are from Haiti, this is the best time in the history of Haiti's liberation to go back to Haiti and be a part of the rebuild. For personal, spiritual insights, because any child at Haiti go back and participate in the rebuild, the ancestors are going to work with them in a hell of a way. They already changed the name. It's no longer Haiti on the map. That means that the people won and the colonizers is being expelled. Because the people was the ones that used that name, not the government, not the system. See, it's going on all over. It's just that it don't look like anything's happening because it's not continuously reported on.
Right.
But it's a lot of little stuff reported on locally that add up to something big taking place.
Yep. Yep. Worldwide. And on that note, we about to get up out of here, y'all. Hey, y'all, everybody send Chief something on the Cash App. If we got the PayPal on there too for the guys in London that was asking about it. Cause they don't got Cash App over there. Shout out my guys in London. Shout out my guys in South Africa that's on. We had some people from Australia on. Well, pretty much we worldwide, really pretty much. And like Ross say, everybody really fight. If you ain't paying attention, we had put some receipts out a while back on the video showing you that everybody's fighting on their own front. Australia's complaining, they making the same complaints we making. You can go look it up. They saying the same shit we saying. We tired of these colonizers. These guys been robbing us, and it's the same guys that robbing us. It's just all some kind of way, all strange lead back to Britain and the crown and the popes and the damn square, the square in London, the Banker Square. All this shit tied right back into all these guys. Everybody, the same guys robbing everybody. So we on that note, man, we better get up out of here, man. We thank you for coming out to kick it with us, Chief. Everybody hit that like, hit that subscribe button, man. We gonna be back, man. Free all of our political prisoners, Larry Hoover, Dr. Balakazi York, Jeff Ford, you know what I'm saying? Anybody else that's held down in this war, because we at war. We still at war. The war never ended, y'all. The war never ended. We better get up out of here. You want to say something before we close out, Chief?
We all good. Let's roll, Elder.
Hey, peace and love. Wadu. One love. Never have it been made so clear.